Hey guys, it's Izzy here, and I have a problem. I have a book buying problem when it comes to historical fiction. Yeah, so in March I really focused on purchasing and reading historical fiction. This is just a month that in past years I've really enjoyed historical fiction. As y'all know, I focus on a different genre every month. I do have some months off for like a summer vacation to read like whatever I want. But March was historical fiction, and I warned y'all that this was going to be a very crazy video. Usually I like to script my hauls, TBRs, and wrap-ups, but if I did script this, we would probably be here for an hour and a half, and my camera will not film that long, and I don't want to sit here and talk for that long because that would be bad, and I'm sure y'all don't want to be sitting at home watching a video of me talking about books that long. So let's get into it. I'm going to read part of the synopsis for y'all and then tell y'all what intrigued me about this book, where I purchased the book, and that kind of thing. I have everything in bags. So first we have this, my book of the month, Best Friends tote. Let me show y'all. This one, super cute. It doesn't say book of the month on that side, but that's what this tote is. So I actually didn't buy all these books. Some of the books I was gifted, some came in subscription boxes, that kind of thing. But the first one was gifted to me, and I technically got this in February, but I wanted to show it in a video. So my grandmother gave me this one, and this is A Dangerous Fortune by Ken Follett. I'm currently reading Fall of Giants by Ken Follett, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm almost done. It's going to be a 5-star. So I'm giving his more modern books by when they take place a chance, because Pillars of the Earth, I had the sequel somewhere back there. I did enjoy, but it wasn't a 5-star experience. I think I would like it better if I did the ebook, so I might reread it on ebook one day. So let me tell you what this is about. So in 1866, tragedy strikes at the exclusive Winfield School. A young student drowns in a mysterious accident involving a small circle of boys. Among them are scrappy Hugh Pallister, his older cousin Edward, and the weak, dissolute heir to the Pallister banking fortune, and Mickey Miranda, a darkly handsome son of a brutal South American landowner. The drowning and its aftermath initiate a spiraling circle to treachery that will span 3 decades and entwine many lives. So I haven't read any of his standalones, and look at these end pages. They're like a Victorian family photo kind of thing, and this is used, so it's not perfect condition or anything, but that is not a big deal to me. I'll probably do the ebook anyway, or maybe audiobook, I don't know. But it is over 500 pages, so I'll do one or the other. But I do want to give more Ken Follett books a shot, and I think doing the ebook route will just be the route to go for me, since they are very dense books, and this is in Victorian times, so I think that I will enjoy that, because the one I'm reading right now is in the Edwardian times, which is like my favorite. Love Edwardian times. So going in the more modern time period, where Pillars of the Earth is in like the thousands, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure when it takes place, but there is a big time jump in between. So the more modern ones I am tending to enjoy more. Then I got really into Colombian or Latin American in general books, because I watched Narcos, and I had read 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Was it last year? Last year or the year before I read that, and I did really enjoy it. So I want to read more books from Latin America. So this month I specifically looked at Colombian books because, as I said, I watched Narcos, and that's where that show takes place. And then just some ties that I personally have to Colombia, and yeah, so that's why I want to check it out. So this is Delirium by Lauren Restrepo, and it is translated by Natasha Wimmer, translated from Spanish, obviously. And to let y'all know, there are some books that aren't featured in this that I bought this month and have already read this month, but I will leave a review to those linked down below in the pinned comment. So what is Delirium about? Aguilar returns home after a 3-day business trip to discover that his beloved wife has gone mad. Desperate to rescue Augustina from her sudden devastating insanity, Aguilar delves back into her shadowy past. Other narratives are intertwined with frantic search for the truth, that of Midas, a flamboyant drug trafficker, and Augustina's former lover, and Augustina's splintered memories of her own troubled childhood. The key to her madness lies buried deep in a Colombian story of money, power, and corruption. So this is the time period that I am very fascinated in. Again, the Narcos era. I'm not, like, when I say I'm fascinated, I just want to learn about it. I'm not saying that, like, it was a good thing or anything, because obviously it was very, very bad. I just think that's just something interesting, modern history in a way, and just the impacts that that can have on a country. I'm really fascinated by America's involvement in the drug wars. I'm not going to go into my personal opinions here because I feel like that I don't want to talk like politics on here, because it usually falls into politics, like with Reagan era and all of that. And but it is very interesting to see our country's response to events that have taken place in Latin America. The next one I have is In the Beginning Was the Sea by Tomas Gonzalez, and this is translated from Spanish by Frank Wynn. So this is more of a literary fiction, and it's very small and cute. So this is when Jay and Elena swap the parties and culture of the city for a simpler life on a remote Caribbean coast. They expect to find an Eden to call their own, but in amongst the mango groves they discover decaying houses, diseased animals, suffocating heat, and locals from another world. Faced with growing debt, how will they survive in the new environment when they themselves remain unchanged? And as their relationship breaks down and the horror unfolds, who can they count on if not each other? I saw a lot of Tomas Gonzalez books. This is just the one that stood out to me that I thought sounded the most interesting. I don't know if he is like a classic author there or is just a very popular one at the moment. I don't know a lot. I never know a lot about authors before going into books, and sometimes that's not a good thing, because then I find out all this stuff afterwards and I'm like, oh my gosh. And yeah, so I got these, all the Colombian ones, from Book Depository because they were cheaper on there than Amazon. So I think there is a thing where you can do Book Depository wishlist now. I'm hesitant about it. I don't know if it shows your address or not. Don't be like, oh, I'll give it a go. No, because I don't want to give out my address. So I might do a wishlist on there eventually, but they do have a lot of translated works and everything, and I think that is super cool that we get to read books. That we have that privilege to read books that were once in another language and translated to our own. Then I did my monthly Barnes & Noble trip, so I wanted to get a science fiction, a thriller. Thriller can be horror, anything like spooky. And then, again, I'm focusing on historical fiction, so this one did not match any of those, but it's one, Florida by Lauren Groff. I've just really been wanting to read books that take place in Florida. I haven't been to Florida in several years now because of the pandemic. I just haven't felt safe going there. I didn't travel in 1 year, and then the next, I haven't got anywhere yet. So this is a short story collection. In Florida, Lauren Groff brings us into a world in which storms, snakes, and sinkholes lurk at the edge of everyday life. The greatest threats and mysteries are of human, emotional, and psychological nature. Among those navigating this place are a resourceful pair of abandoned sisters, a lonely boy grown up, a restless, childless couple, a searching homeless woman, and an unforgettable recurring character, a steely and conflicted wife and mother. So, love Florida. I will probably live there eventually. Yeah, and this won it was a National Book Award finalist. Then they didn't have the thriller that I originally came for, so I had to scroll down my list, and I found The Haunting of Lee Harker by Darcy Coates. So Lee Harker's quiet suburban home was her sanctuary for more than a decade until things abruptly changed. Curtains open by themselves, radios turn off and on, and a dark figure looms in the shadows of her bedroom door at night, watching her, waiting for her to finally let down her guard enough to sleep. So I don't know if the main character has agoraphobia, but the first sentence made it kind of sound like it, and I want to read about characters who go through the same mental illness that I do, and other mental illnesses. We'd love to see that representation, but I'm agoraphobic, so I like to read characters who I can relate to, and I don't know if that is the case here, so that's why I mainly picked it up, but then obviously having some paranormal aspects should be fun. The science fiction I got was Something New Under the Sun by Alexandra Kleeman. So here we go. What is it about? East Coast novelist Patrick Hamlin has come to Hollywood with simple goals in mind, overseeing the production of a film adaptation of one of his books, preventing starlet Cassidy Carter's disrupted behavior from derailing said production, and turning this last-ditch effort at career resurrection, it's not resurrection, I don't know that word, into the sort of success that will dazzle his wife and daughter back home. But California is not as he imagined. Drought, wildfire, and corporate corruption are omnipresent, and the company behind a mysterious brand of synthetic water seems to be at the root of it. Patrick partners with Cassidy after having been her reluctant chauffeur for weeks. The two of them investigate the sun-scorched city's darker crevices when they discover the catastrophe resembles order until the last possible second. So I'm really liking science fiction that is dystopian and seems like it can really happen, like pandemic books, that kind of thing. I find those really super interesting. I started the year with the book of the Unnamed Midwife, and that really set me going into reading these kind of genres. So I can't wait to get to this one. So I did get a historical fiction, and this is one I had never heard of, and this is Small World, a novel by Jonathan Evison. So set against such iconic backdrops as the California Gold Rush, the development of the Transcontinental Railroad, and the speeding train of modern day, strangers forced together by fate, this book is a grand entertainment that asks big questions. That's my favorite. So it seems like we're going in multiple timelines, possibly generations, with the characters, and then a California setting's cool, and then big questions. I always love to think. I love to learn. That is why I read. So I'm glad that it is at least emphasizing that in the synopsis. This has been compared to Charles Dickens as well. This is a result of a historical epic with a Dickensian flair. Love Charles Dickens writing. Probably my favorite classic author, to be honest, which is, wow, I'm just realizing that. So I can't wait to see what this has to offer. And I've never heard of it, and it sounds amazing. Then we do have a book that I've heard of, and this is one of my most anticipated books. I just have not had a chance to get to it this month since it is quite a hefty one, and that is Still Life by Sarah Winman. I wish this was more of a glossy cover. I really love the cover. I just wish it was a different material. So Tuscany, 1944. As Allied troops advance and bombs fall around deserted villages, a young English soldier, Ulysses Temper, finds himself in the wine cellar of an abandoned villa. There he has a chance encounter with Evelyn Skinner, a middle-aged art historian who has come to Italy to salvage paintings from the ruins and recall long-forgotten memories of her own youth. In each other, Ulysses and Evelyn find a kindred spirit amidst the rubble of war-torn Italy and set off a course of events that will shape Ulysses' life for the next 4 decades. So why does it stand out? So when I was in Milan, I volunteered at a nursing home, and at the time I didn't think this, but more recently I was thinking, oh my gosh, those old people were living in World War II Italy, which was under a dictatorship and fascism. And it just registered, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have talked to them about it. My Italian was not on that level then, and a lot of them didn't speak English, so I couldn't really ask them about it, but just to think of these people I met, to think of the lives that they lived and the things that they had seen, because Italy and Milan was getting bombed by the Allies, so because that was like Mussolini's. If you go there, the architecture is very fascist, and yeah, so it's just crazy to think about. So that's why I want to read more Italian World War II books. Then Tuscany, I love Tuscany, the Medici, Florence, the art, so that's another thing. So we have Evelyn, who is an art historian, and I'm always curious of how the things in museums got to be in museums. Especially art. I've seen pieces by Botticelli in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm like, how did these things go from Renaissance Italy to being in Midwestern America in the heartland? I do not know. And that's something I find fascinating. And then it says for the next 4 decades, so it seems like we are going to have a multi-timeline there following him for a long span of time, which, as y'all know, is one of my favorite things. So then I got another from Book Depository, and that is The Sound of Things Falling by Juan Gabriel Vasquez. This is the one I'm super excited for. So no sooner does he get to know Ricardo La Verde in a seedy billiard hall in Bogota. Then Antonio Guimarães realizes the ex-pilot has a secret. Antonio's fascination with his new friend's life grows until the day Ricardo receives a mysterious unmarked cassette. Shortly afterwards, he is shot dead on a street corner. Yamar's investigation into what happened leads back to the early 1960s marijuana smuggling and a time before the cocaine trade trapped Colombia in a living nightmare. So that is exactly what I want to read. I want to know what it was like to live with Escobar and the Cali cartel and all of that. We have our... Is this Thanos? I don't know. I'm not a superhero person. I got this in a subscription box. But we have this bag now. Let me set it over here. So Target did me good with having historical fiction this month. So we got the love songs of W.E. Is it Du Bois? Yeah, Du Bois, when it's like this. I've heard people say Du Bois, but I think it's Du Bois because I've talked about, well, when we talk about why I got this book, you'll know why I say that. So the great scholar W.E. Du Bois once wrote about the problem of race in America and what he called double consciousness, a sensitivity that every African American possesses in order to survive. Since childhood, Ailey Pearl Garfield has understood Du Bois' words all too well. Bearing the name of two formal Black Americans and revered choreographer Alvin Ailey and her grandmother Pearl, the descendant of enslaved Georgians and tenant farmers, Allie carries Du Bois' problems on her shoulders. So before that, the little blurb, it says, this goes following one American family from the centuries of colonial slave trade through the Civil War to our own tumultuous era. So again, multiple things following one family generations. We know that's my favorite. So, and then I love books set in the South because that is where I'm from and I want to know all about Southern history because it is brutal and yeah, I think it's interesting to learn about. So the main reason, well, those were main reasons, but another reason is Du Bois. So one of my surnames, when I say one of mine, that means one of my great-grandparents' last name is DuBose in South Carolina. It's pronounced DuBose. In Canada, because I know there's a hockey player, his last name is spelled like this and is Du Bois, and that is how my last name was spelled before coming to America, because they went to a British colony, so they anglicized the last name from the French. But in France, it was spelled like this, again, Du Bois. So I've heard people say Du Bois. I think it's Du Bois personally, and I've seen some places in South Florida that have this spelling as well. I'm the lone ranger out here with Du Bois instead of Du Bois. But yeah, I thought that was interesting since I share that name. So what else do we have in here? This is a new release, and this is the Tobacco Wives by Adele Myers. This came out this month, as I said. It's a new release. So Maddie Sykes, I don't know, is a promising seamstress who's just arrived in Brightleaf, North Carolina, the tobacco capital of the South, where her aunt has a thriving sewing business. After years of war rations and shortages, Bright Light is a prosperous wonderland in full technicolor bloom, and Maddie is dazzled by the bustle of the crispy and uniformed female factory workers, the palatial homes, and most of all, her aunt's glossiest clientele, the wives of the powerful tobacco executives, my bad. So again, a Southern novel. This is more recently in post-war America, World War II, and North Carolina. Love that. I love the colors of this cover. But yeah, tobacco is our main product here. I'm not a farmer, but I see it everywhere, obviously. I don't know if Brightleaf it's a real place. I personally have never heard of that, but again, I am not a big smoker. I'm not a tobacco user in any sense, so I don't think I would really know about big tobacco places. But Lisa Wingate did blurb it, and she wrote my favorite book last year, so that is super exciting. Another new release is Chorus by Rebecca Kaufman. This is another one where we follow a family, and this is the 7 Shaw siblings have long been haunted by 2 early and profoundly consequential events, told in terms from the early 20th century, my favorite, through the 1950s. The story builds as each sibling relates their own versions of the memories that surrounded both their mother's mysterious death and the circumstances of one sister's scandalous teenage pregnancy. As they move into adulthood, the siblings assume new roles: caretaker to their aging father, addict, enabler, academic, decorated veteran, widow and mothers and fathers to the next generation. So that just sounds super good to me. I haven't seen good reviews of this, but obviously everyone has their own opinions. Some people are going to enjoy it, some people aren't. We have my book of the month picks now. So my pick was The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. Here's what it is about. So a true crime blogger gets more than she bargained for while interviewing the woman acquitted of two cold case slayings in the chilling new novel from the best-selling author of The Sundown Motel. Loved The Sundown Motel. I read it the year it came out. I don't remember. It was my book of the month back then. Absolutely loved it. So that made Simone St. James an auto-buy author for me. So that's the main reason I picked this up. But her books usually follow two timelines. This one in 1977 and 2017, and we are in Oregon, and she has those like crime elements and then a little aspect of paranormal as well, and I think that's really cool to mix the two of them together. Then I did get an add-on, and both of these were new releases, and so again I'm focusing on historical fiction, so my add-on was a historical fiction. I hope you guys don't mind, but my camera died, so I've had to switch to filming on my phone. The camera could not take this video, so we do have a few more in this bag. So this is another new release. I saw it on Barnes & Noble's Facebook, and I was like, that sounds really good. I didn't realize this is about a real person, so I don't know if I should read their books before I read this one. But this is The Last Confessions of Sylvia P. by Lee Kravitz. So a multi-generational story, so that inspired by true events. The Last Confessions of Sylvia P. imaginatively brings into focus the period of promise and tragedy that marked the writing of Sylvia Plath's modern classic, The Bell Jar. Never heard of that, but as a writer, I like to read about other writers, so should be fun. I don't know if it'll be fun. It could be like super dark, but should be interesting to read. So another Target purchase. These are like my most recent Target purchases. So this is The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. My bad. So I saw this on Grace's channel, and she was the one that just convinced me to get this book. So this is two teenagers, a Greek Cypriot, I could be wrong on that pronunciation, and a Turkish Cypriot meet at a taverna on the island they both call home. In the taverna, hidden beneath garlands of garlic, chili peppers, and creeping honeysuckle, Costas and Daphne grow in their forbidden love for each other. A fig tree stretches through a cavity in the roof, and this tree bears witness to their hushed, happy meetings and eventually to their silent surface departures. The tree is there when war breaks out, when the capital is reduced to ashes and rubble. When the teenagers vanish decades later, Costas returns. He is a botanist and looking for a native species, but really he's searching for lost love. Like, oh my gosh! So this is a two timeline book again, and I don't know a lot about Cyprus, so I always want to learn about new places, and y'all will see that with some of the books I show y'all here. And look at this cover. Beautiful, beautiful. And I don't know, I think this came out last year, maybe, but it is a newer book because it is in hardback, and I usually, if there's a paperback option, I will buy the paperback. This is my last Target one, and that is The Spanish Daughter by Lorena Hughes. So this is set against the lush backdrop of early 20th century Ecuador and inspired by real-life history of the coastal town known as the birthplace of Cuaco. I'm not sure, but I think it's chocolate. This captivating novel for the award-winning author of The Sisters of Alameda Street tells a story of a resourceful young chocolatier who must impersonate a man in order to survive. So Lorena Hughes is from Ecuador, and as I said, I want to read more books from Latin American authors with Latin American settings. This stack, last week, so many new releases came out. I talked about them in last week's video, so this, if you haven't seen that, there's no point in watching it now if you're watching this. So again, all historical fiction. So this is a Ballad of Love and Glory by Reina Grande. So this is, and the year is 1846. After the controversial annexation in Texas, the U.S. Army marches south to provoke war with Mexico over the disputed Rio Grande boundary. Zemina Salome Benitez y Catalan is a gifted Mexican healer who dreams of building a family with a man she loves on the coveted land she calls home. But when Texas Rangers storm her ranch and shoot her husband dead, Her dreams are burned to ashes. Vowing to honor her husband's memory and defend her country, Zemina uses her healing skills as an army nurse on the front lines of a ravaging war. And then there's like an Irish immigrant, and I think they fall in love. He's on the American side. And the author in this crossed the border as a young girl to join her family in Los Angeles. So I'm glad that she made it and is all right and is out here writing books about her country's histories, because I did not learn anything about the Mexican-American War in school. I don't know anything about it, so I do want to know more. So hopefully I get a good basis in this book. Then we have Fencing with the King by Diana Abdul-Jabbar. So how the King of Jordan is turning 60. How better to celebrate the occasion with his favorite pastime, fencing, with his favorite sparring partner, Gabrielle Hamden, who must be enticed back from America, where he lives with his wife and daughter, Amani. So this is set in Jordan after I think it's after World War One. I see World War, it's a during, but so it's sometime in that early 1900s, which is my favorite. So that really piqued my interest. And again, I don't know a lot about Jordan, so I do want to know more. Next, we have The Mozart Code by Rachel McMillan. So Lady Sophia Huntington Villers is no stranger to intrigue, as her work with Alan Turing's Bombay machines at Bletchley Park during the war attest. Now, as part of Simon Barr's covert team in post-war Vienna, she uses her inimitable charm as in codename Starling to infiltrate the world of relics, uncovering vital information that could shift the balance of the mounting Cold War. When several influential men charge her with finding the death mass of Mozart, Sophie wonders if there is more than the composer's legacy at stake, and finds herself drawn to the potential answers in Prague. So these two are like a couple and spies, and I find that very fascinating. And then the part of discovering something of Mozart, again, how I was talking about earlier, of how I don't know a lot about how things got to museums, and I'm fascinated by that. I think this book will play into that as well. So next we have When I Sing Mountains Dance by Irene Sola. So I said that I thought this was French or Spanish last week. I was way wrong. It is Catalan, which is a language in Spain. So it's translated from that by Mara Faye Letham. So high in the Pyrenees, storm clouds swell, reckless and gleeful and unbearably fooled. They release their bolts of lightning. A striking farmer, Dominic, he dies with poems on his lips and black chenerels gathered in his shirt. The ghosts of 17th century witches come across his body and claim his chenerels before going on their merry way. So I am not sure when this takes place. I thought about having it as my next read, but since my current read is in the 1500s, I don't know, I don't want to read another one set in that same time period on the same continent and everything if this takes place then. So I'm not sure. I haven't seen a lot about this. It's just coming out in English this past week, but I am very intrigued. Now I went to a used bookstore this past weekend, so I got some cheap used books, and it's an indie bookstore. And so I'm so happy I finally found an indie bookstore that is like at least 30 minutes from my home, or at most 30 minutes from my home. So I am definitely going to try to go there once a month. So I got The House of Lanyon by Valerie Anand. I want to pick this up so bad right now, but it's like over 500 pages, and I can't do that right now. So when two ambitious families occupy the same patch of English soil, rivalry is sure to take root and flourish. A glimmer of initiative swells into blind desire and minor hurts, nursed with jealousy, fester, and a malignant hatred. When a bitter feud is born, the price for this wild and beautiful piece of ground will take more than 3 generations to settle, multi-generations, and it says it's in 15th century England, which is one of my favorite time periods in history. Then I got Roma by Stephen Saylor. So from its mythic beginnings as a campsite along a trade route to its emergence as the center of an extensive, powerful empire, Stephen Saylor's breathtaking novel brings to life vivid life the most famous city in the ancient world, told through the tragedies and triumphs of descendants of two families. Roma shows the events, the people, and turning points in history have come to symbolize ancient Rome in the modern imagination. Love Rome. Again, we're following two families, and that is what I like. I got two nonfiction hardbacks, which are literally $20 cheaper than at Barnes & Noble. So this is, I think basically I can just say what's on the cover. Hidden America, From Coal Miners to Cowboys, an extraordinary exploration of the unseen people who make this country work, by Janine Marie Lascas. So I think this is very important, especially frontline workers. I think we know even more now of how essential they are to our country, and I think everybody's story deserves to be told. These aren't famous people. These are just normal, everyday Americans, and I think they deserve to have their story told. Then I got Founding Mothers, The Woman Who Raised Our Nation, by Cokie Roberts. So this is about the wives, mothers, sisters, and daughters of the men who made the Declaration of Independence, battled the British. I want to read a book on every president and read a book on every first lady, and I thought this would be an interesting place, as I don't know anything about these women. I know about their husbands, but not them, so I want to know about them, and I think they deserve to have their stories told as well. So lastly, I got this in the Unplugged book box this month. As you can see, autographed everything. This is a romance. I've seen it occasionally on Goodreads. I'm not really a fantasy romance reader, so it should be interesting. So Magicless Witch Violet Maxwell wants nothing to do with alpha wolf shifter Lincoln Thorne, the man who broke her fragile teenage heart. But when the two of them are forced by arcane supernatural laws to find mates, Violet and Lincoln agree to fake date and their way to a fake mating in order to conjure themselves some time. I think that sounds super strange, but I think it will be just a fun reading experience. So I hope y'all made it through this video. It was super long, as you have seen. I've been getting tongue-tied. I'm sorry that I don't have control. That's my issue. I don't have control issues. I can't control. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!